I thought the last video would be my final video, but here I am proving myself wrong once again. On May 24th, Pan Choa posted an article reviving the topic that everyone is tired of discussing, even myself, but the reason why I still discuss it is because I don't think it's okay to let people spread lies and misinformation in regards to Jessica's removal from Girls' Generation. Upon seeing this Pan Choa article and reading the discuss comment section, it inspired me to create a thread that I've been wanting to create for a while. But I always held off on creating it because I didn't want to deal with the potential drama that would stem from the thread. The thread debunks one of the most familiar excuses and lies that Soans like to rely on when the Girls' Generation members' involvement in Jessica's removal is brought to the forefront. Soans always say, but the members can't pick their title tracks, concepts, or their outfits. They are powerless. There's no way they were involved in Jessica's removal. Here is proof that the Girls' Generation members have creative freedom and input. March 4th, 2009, Girls' Generation appeared on Radio Star and said themselves that the members' opinions take priority in regards to the group and the future of the group. December 23rd, 2013, a few months before the Mr. Mr. mini-album released, Tiffany did an interview with Harper's Bazaar magazine and talked about being a visual director for Girls' Generation and the Tay-Tee-So subunit. On March 12, 2014, Girls' Generation appeared on Radio Star and talked about issues that arose during the promotions for the Mr. Mr. mini-album. When asked by the host which member speaks to SM when issues occur, Yuri said it's different each time, but Tiffany is usually the one talking to them and is the representative for the group. On March 16, 2014, a fan asked Tiffany if she did the visual directing for the Mr. Mr. mini-album, and Tiffany replied by saying, yes, the parking lot scene in the music video. On September 16, 2014, Tay-Tee-So did an interview with Billboard talking about how they were involved from picking the songs, to the styling, to the music video for their Holler mini-album. On September 21, 2014, Tiffany did an interview with Vogue Girl magazine, and she mentions how she did the overall construction of Tay-Tee-So's Holler album, along with the visual directing and the styling. October 3, 2014, Tay-Tee-So talked about their involvement in the Holler mini-album when they guested on Sketchbook.
소녀시대 중에서도 이 세 분이 음악적인 욕망이 대단해요. 그래서 이번 앨범에 멤버들의 참여가 굉장히 많았다고 들었어요. 어떤 참여들이 있었는지.
네, 우선 전체적인 뭐 의상이나
네.
이미지 컨셉을 티파니가 이번에 디렉터로 맡아서 직접 진행을 했어요. 그래서 앨범에
총괄하고
이름도
있고.
올리기도 하고
네, 드디어
크레딧에
올랐습니다.
딱.
그럼 태연 씨는 뭐 하셨어요?
저요?
네, 이번에서
정말 열심히 노래했어요.
노래를 열심히 했다. 그게 제일 중요하죠 사실.
아, 근데 태연이가 거의 약간 A&R 담당이었어요. 아, 이 노래 좋아요. 이 노래는 녹음은 해볼게요. 이 노래 좋다. 그러니까 태연이가 아무래도 네, 메인 보컬이니 좋은 주장을 해줬죠.
알겠습니다. 서현 씨가 이번에 썼던 가사를 제가 좀 뽑아왔어요.
December 27, 2014, Taeyeon's Instagram update showcased Tiffany helping stylists with the sewing or stitching for the outfits Girls' Generation wore for the KBS Song Festival on December 26, 2014, which were said to be an homage to Dolce & Gabbana. On July 16, 2015, the outfits for Girls' Generation's track performance on Inkigayo on July 12, 2015, were Sooyoung's idea. On August 21, 2015, the outfits for Girls' Generation's performances at KCON New York on August 8, 2015, were Tiffany's idea. On June 26, 2018, Tiffany did an interview with Paper Magazine and she talked about being involved in the creative process since 2011. On November 14, 2022, Tiffany did an interview with Harper's Bazaar Singapore, and she talked about how she was one of the members that pushed for Girls' Generation's comeback in 2022 and for SM Entertainment to give them a full album rather than a single like SM had suggested. By pointing all of this out, I'm merely showing that this excuse and lie is untrue, and it simply makes no sense to correlate not being able to choose title tracks, concepts, or outfits to something as crucial as wanting a co-member out of the group. I also don't want anyone pinpointing certain members for Jessica's removal when it was a group decision made by all 8. No one is saying the members single-handedly kicked Jessica out, nor is anyone saying that the members blacklisted Jessica. However, they did instigate her removal from the group. I would never say that the members blacklisted Jessica because they did not. SM deserves blame for the blacklisting and for not mediating the situation between her and the members before it led to what it did. I'm going to believe the person that was a former member of the group and one of SM's former artists who knows the inner workings of the company and the inner workings of the group she was once part of about the members being involved in her removal over what anyone on the internet has to say. Jessica shared her side and there was absolutely nothing to refute what she said. The only thing that's a mystery about her removal from Girls' Generation is the lack of substantial reasoning to justify her removal from the group. I don't see Jessica throwing away years of friendship if the members had nothing to do with her removal and if it was a SM versus Jessica situation. I also don't see Jessica implicating the members and her removal if they had absolutely nothing to do with it. Most importantly, if Jessica's removal was simply just a SM versus Jessica situation, there would have been no mention of the members' involvement in her Weibo post and official statement. She would still be friends with the members to this very day, but that's not the case. After all, in her second Weibo post, she did say, "I'm deeply saddened and hurt by those who I trusted and hope that you don't ever have to experience this kind of pain." I don't make threads or videos to get likes or followers. It's not about that for me. It genuinely is about clearing up the misinformation and lies. After all, even though I post threads at times, they barely get any traction outside of the Golden Star fandom, which is fine with me, although I'm more than pleased if they tend to reach an audience or the people who are genuinely curious about Jessica's removal and are able to see the lies for what they are. Actually, the tweets and videos where people are disregarding what Jessica herself said about her removal tend to get more traction, retweets, and likes than the threads, videos, or tweets that Golden Stars or I make to clear up the misinformation and lies about her removal. And here's a prime example of exactly that.
Probably thinking, oh, well, Jessica wrote her book. She literally told us. It's also so important for your media literacy to understand and verify your sources. Jessica, love her down, is 1 out of 9 primary sources for this whole event. And if we're being absolutely honest, her book is very irresponsible. She's making serious allegations against 8 people who cannot respond to her. And saying things like, they've drugged her. Some of them slept with executives to get into the group. They stole her music and released it without her permission. You know, you can't just say things like that and hide behind the guise that it's fiction, because it's supposed to be your tell-all. It cannot be both. Her book is also kind of damning in a way. Besides being a Mary Sue who did nothing wrong, she mentions how she wasn't allowed to skip rehearsal for her fashion brand, but the others could do radio and variety and movies and film. But I don't think she realizes that her doing a solo fashion brand that's separate from GG is different from the other girls building the GG brand with their solo activities. So it might be in her best interest to be treated as fiction. Now, I'm not saying that she's some massive liar. We can't believe anything that she says. No, not at all. But I am saying that the only conclusion that we can glean from the available information is that SM threw Jessica out because she was trying to make her money. Just like Super Junior, just like DBSK, just like EXO now. And I would urge y'all to stop acting like we know these people or that we can figure out what they're thinking based on some obscure interpretations of their body language or their facial expressions or their whatever. Honestly, in my opinion, most of all idols are victims anyway, so I try to give most of them the benefit of the doubt. So I would wish all 9 members success in their future. Me personally.
This person is relying on fictional novels when Jessica said what happened in her Weibo post and her official statement, and both were never refuted, nor was she sued for it if she was lying. He keeps referring to her fictional novels as a tell-all when Jessica herself said that she never wanted to write a tell-all or an autobiography, and that she wanted to make good entertainment.
This book is supposed to be a fiction. I never wanted to write an autobiography or a tell-all story. It's just, I wanted to make, good entertainment, a good read.
On February 15, 2021, Jessica did an interview and addressed the drugging part in Shine. Jessica reiterated that Shine is fictional and that it's just an element to add to make the novel more interesting. I said it before and I'll say it again. If people choose to take the drama and the fictional plot elements in either of the novels and assign it to the members, that's their own doing. At this point, I'm kind of over the excuse or argument that the members cannot respond to her. It is highly possible and likely that there's a NDA stopping them from talking about Jessica's removal from the group, but if they truly had absolutely nothing to do with her removal, I'm sure they would head around to it in a roundabout way, or that her removal was her fault. No one would sit silently and let someone implicate them in being involved in ruining their livelihood and career, causing the darkest moment of their life if they had nothing to do with it.
I mean, obviously, there was a period of time right after you left the band where a lot of people were kind of speculating, what really happened. And I mean, I don't think it's our place to ask what was the behind the scenes, but I think I'm curious about how that was for you, because I could only imagine how emotionally heavy it must have been. So what went through your head during that period of time, and at the same time also then trying to make your brand work?
I try to put the past behind me, and I always try to look at the brighter things, brighter side. Of course, that time was one of the darkest times of my life, darkest period of my life. But I had my family and friends to really support me, and my fans were always there. And, I didn't feel alone, and I felt like, it was a good transitioning period and good time for me to grow up.
I know it's a bit different, but if the members can speak up and complain about SM while still being signed to SM and call out people for lying about almost being in Girls' Generation, or call out another artist for saying they dropped out of their collaboration for an award ceremony, then they can speak up. SM didn't throw Jessica out because she was making her own money. If SM didn't want her launching her brand and making her own money, they wouldn't have approved of her launching the brand, nor would they have supported it and promoted it, which is exactly what they did. Jessica was at the practices and official schedules before and after the launch of her brand that so-ons like to claim she missed with absolutely no evidence to back up what they are saying. So what did SM supposedly dislike? That Jessica was doing what SM said all of the Girls' Generation members would be doing in the contract renewal article released on September 15, 2014? The one about all the members gearing up to focus on individual activities and schedules aside from the TTSO subunit? Why do so-ons get to decide which members' individual activities are beneficial for SM and for the group as a whole and contribute to building the group's brand, and which members' individual activities do not? If so-ons want to view the members' dramas as boosting the whole group's popularity and recognition and brand, Jessica's brand doing well would also do the same thing, because success garners interest despite if it's from singing activities, acting, musicals, radio hosting, variety shows, etc. I don't gain anything by creating videos or tweet threads other than wanting to clarify the lies. It's come to my attention that I actually get called annoying, or in other cases, a miserable slut or jobless for creating tweet threads or videos, although I still can't wrap my mind around the jobless insult. Do people not understand that you can have a job and be on Twitter? Or do they not realize that when they call someone jobless for being on Twitter, it's actually backfiring on them because they too are on Twitter, but going out of their way to quote tweets to hurl insults at another person? By their logic, wouldn't them being on Twitter make them jobless? Anyway, I'm rambling at this point, sorry. Personally, I think that being okay with lies being spread about someone and going out of your way to quote people's tweets just to tell them to stop talking about a topic for your convenience because you are tired of it is annoying. But that's just my opinion. It's interesting to me how a fandom who had and still has so many lies to tell about Jessica and her removal can only say, move on, it's in the past, it's been years, let it rest, when their fandom lies and excuses they relied on for 10 years are being debunked and exposed. So-ons are outspoken when it comes to telling lies about Jessica and supporting other so-ons' tweets spreading lies about her or blaming her for her removal or insinuating negative things about her or disregarding her words about her removal. But when it comes to their lies being exposed, they want to use silencing tactics. Move on, it happened 10 years ago, let it rest. Why can't I make threads or videos debunking lies and excuses that so-ons have made about one of my alts or biases? Why should I be okay with letting lies run rampant about Jessica because others don't like clarification? What's so difficult about not giving any attention to what doesn't appeal to you or just simply ignoring it? It's honestly disconcerting to me that people would rather be okay with lies being told about someone because they don't like what they're reading in regards to the lies being cleared up. If this happened to one of their faves, biases, or alts, people would be creating threads clarifying and refuting the lies too. I get that some people will never be as invested in certain situations and would rather not engage in arguments or drama, regardless of how much they admire the person they are a fan of, which is fine, I completely respect that. But what I don't like is the hypocrisy that comes from the people who go out of their way to quote my tweets that are not meant for them. Clearly, you are slightly invested in the topic of Jessica's removal if you can't scroll by and ignore the tweet threads or posts about it, especially if they frustrate you to the point of you going out of your way to quote people, insult them, and then proceed to argue about how they should move on, when you could simply mind your own business and move on from quoting people's tweets when you don't like what you're reading or what comes across your timeline. And saying stream Jessica's music instead of creating threads about her removal will never not be funny coming from so-ons when their fandom as a whole doesn't show the same support for the other members' music activities that aren't the main vocalist. I can create threads and stream Jessica's music, which is exactly what I do. I do not think that any of the Girls' Generation members are evil, awful, or terrible people for being involved in Jessica's removal, but wrong is wrong, and I think they made a huge mistake. I said it before, but I'm more than interested in hearing what they have to say if they ever break their silence, but they likely won't because the silence is beneficial for them. Until then, I believe the person who had everything to lose by speaking up and never had her words refuted, and there's tangible proof to substantiate her words. I believe Jessica over the members' decade-long silence. People also go on to ask, well, if SM didn't have a problem with Jessica or her brand, then why didn't they back her up? As for my thoughts on why SM didn't make the choice to back her up, and this is merely my opinion, basically the members didn't want to work with her anymore and leverage themselves against her, and SM chose what was more profitable, 8 members versus 1, regardless of who was in the right or wrong, and I think they didn't have much of a choice in that matter if the other members were refusing to go on stage with Jessica or work with her. At the end of the day, SM is a business. I believe that Jessica was blacklisted because SM knew her potential. She was one of the most popular members of the group. They allowed her to launch and establish her own brand and had plans for her to be in a subunit with Crystal, as well as season 2 of their reality show. And considering Jessica's potential, they didn't want to see her thrive without them, and I think it's coupled with the fact that she spoke out about her removal instead of allowing SM to control the narrative and tell a lie about her absence from the Shinjin fan meeting. I'm sure her speaking up didn't sit well with SM. I know Jessica and JYJ's situation is not the same, and I honestly don't like when people bring up other SM artists' disputes with SM, because none of those artists had their members involved in the removal, and Jessica is the only one whose situation did not involve a lawsuit. But SM tried to make an example out of JYJ by blacklisting them because they were already aware of how successful they were in DBSK or TVXQ, and that they would still prove to be successful without SM. So, SM tried to stifle that in any way that they could, although JYJ was still successful, but they were also robbed of their full potential due to the blacklisting. Additionally, Jessica is a constant reminder of Girls' Generation no longer having their original lineup. From 2007 up until Jessica's removal in 2014, the Girls' Generation members always emphasized the importance of the number 9, them being a 9-member group, and that they would stay that way throughout the changes in their lives, such as getting married, having children, focusing on individual activities. As we can see, that shifted to emphasizing the importance of the number 8 ever since they became 8. People did initially start to question their friendship and bond when Jessica's removal was first announced before the smear campaign against her was full-fledged. SM effectively tarnished Jessica's reputation and ruined her image to obfuscate the situation and made the general public in South Korea stop questioning what happened between her and the members and made sure it turned into Jessica was a greedy, selfish foreigner who planned to get married, leave the group, quit her music career, go to a fashion design school, then off to China, and she wanted to make money while using the group's brand name and wanted the Girls' Generation members to bend to her will. But people in general still see her removal as a mystery regardless of if they did or did not believe most of the things from the smear campaign against her. And that's also the reason why her removal will always be a topic of discussion, although Jessica spoke her truth about what happened. But I know people are either going to believe her or not, and that's their right. But I think it's absolutely disrespectful to overlook what she's at least said about the situation. Honestly, Jessica has only spoken about her removal a handful of times, although it's never been in depth, and only when prodded by interviewers about it. She's always answered graciously about her time in the group despite people wanting to spin it like she talks about her removal all the time and that she badmouths the members when that's never been the case. Jessica's The Daily Catch-Up podcast interview managed to ruffle some feathers when it released, although she didn't say anything negative at all. But if even that interview caused so much discourse surrounding her removal, you can imagine that SM Entertainment would make sure she would not have very many opportunities to go on a public platform or any broadcast to get asked about it or for it to be a topic of discussion in South Korea by trying to ruin her as much as they could. The blacklisting seemingly or didn't noticeably start until after she made her solo debut with Fly and the With Love J mini album, and it received a positive response. Based on all of this, that's why I personally believe that SM blacklisted Jessica and didn't back her up even if there was no bad blood between her and SM. I think that SM thinks that if Jessica is out of sight and out of mind, then that's good enough for them. There's actually a really good thread on Twitter about the blacklisting that I like to refer to people since it gives a good and in-depth overview of Jessica's blacklisting by SM Entertainment. I apologize for this video being long, but I guess this was something I really wanted to discuss and make a video about. Thank you all for watching, and please take care.